Okay, guys, so Spotlight, we're going to talk about Spotlight today. And um, Spotlight is not new. Spotlight came out in around about 1995 when we were back on System 8, System 8, System 9, System 8, something like that. And it was the first time that we were able to search our computers, not just for files by their name, but by files where we were searching for a bit of text inside a document. And it was blindingly fast. And it was some technology that used to go and index your entire hard drive. And once it was indexed, you could actually do searches for not just the file, as I said, but also content that was on your, that was inside those documents. And then it started getting smarter. It had something like data detectors. So if you opened up a document and there was an email address, it knew it was an email address. So you could click on it and send a mail to somebody. And it knew a URL was a URL. And it's grown considerably since then. So, you know, at its core, it's a search engine. So we're going to look at two aspects of it: how to really finesse searching your hard drive, and then we're going to look at more extended features of what Spotlight can do for us. So let me share my desktop. Okay, so most people use Spotlight as an application launcher. So I have two ways of accessing it. I can click on the magnifying glass and it brings up my little Spotlight search window, or the default keyboard command is Command Space. So if I hold down Command Space, I get the little Spotlight bar. So if I wanted to launch Safari, for example, I could start typing. And can you see how it's starting to autocomplete already? So if that's what I want, I can just hit Enter on my keyboard and it launches Safari. So that's really, really quite simple. If we wanted to sort of finesse that a little bit, if I wanted to launch Fontbook, for example, it understands initials. So if I went FB for Fontbook, it's found Fontbook already. So if you don't want to have to type out the entire name, or you've got many applications which have similar names, like Adobe, for example, there's Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe this, Adobe that, you could start to use the initials. So if I did say, for example, GB, it'll launch GarageBand. Now, going back to what I said about initials, if I was to type A for Adobe, P for Photoshop, and 2 for 2020, it gives me Adobe Photoshop 2020. If I went AI2, I'd get Adobe Illustrator 2020. If I went, what else have they got? AL2, I'd get Adobe Lightroom. So here are a couple of ways that we can shorten the process for launching our applications. So that's Launcher. And I suspect almost everybody uses Spotlight to do that, to launch their applications. So let's look a little deeper into it. If I type Siri, for example, Siri, you can see it's found a whole bunch. And the first one that it's found is actually a system preference. So if I hit return on this one, it doesn't just open system preferences, it takes me straight to Siri and system preferences. So I don't have to go to my system. I don't have to find out where Siri was and click on it and launch it. I can do everything in one fell swoop, one little click. Let's go back to Siri. You can see it's remembered it. Siri is also a part of the accessibility pane. Angela was showing you yesterday how you could access Siri to open up the type in Siri. If I tap on that, it's taking me straight into accessibility where I can access my Siri commands. Okay, makes sense? All right, let's carry on with Siri. There's some images. I can scroll down and you can see I get a little preview on the right-hand side. Here's the notes that I'm working on because it's got the word Siri in it. Okay. Now, I can use the arrows to go down. If I want to find out where this document lives, let's say, for example, I'm taking that document. If I hold down the Command key, have a look at the bottom right of the results window, and you can see the destination. You can see it's Alan Downloads, and there's that particular document. If I go to Spotlight Workshop, it's in Learning Sessions, Streaming and QuickTime Content, and QuickCast Content Spotlight Workshop. So this will show me where it is, okay? If I wanted to open that file inside its enclosing folder, I keep the Command key down and I can double click on that file And it doesn't open the document, but it opens the folder that contained it. So I can very, very easily find documents in my hard drive without actually opening it. Say I wanted to copy it from somewhere. Okay. So let's go back a little further. Go back to here. And if I was to say search for wallpaper, right? It's found a lot of stuff. It's found some images. Just one more thing on that command key. Remember I said if I tap the down arrow, I can go from item to item. If I hold the command key down and tap on the down arrow, I go to the first item in each category because they're sorted by images, by bookmarks, by other, by Siri knowledge. Remember what we were talking about yesterday with Siri looking up stuff? It's actually looking up Siri content, what wallpaper is, computer wallpaper, and so on. Spotlight Workshop, and so on. So the command key gives me quite a bit more fine control over what I'm doing. But now, the first thing it's found is a folder, but just say I wanted it to narrow it down completely to just folders. I can type a space, type kind, and then folder, and now it only shows me folder, and I only have apparently one folder called wallpaper. If I do something like say thumb, kind, folder, you see I've got one folder of thumbnails and I've got some stuff inside there. So I want you to remember this kind thing because I'm not expecting you all to be geeks and we can use it. We're going to come back to this. So I'm going to escape out of here and I'm going to use Spotlight to search for Spotlight. And you'll see the first thing it finds is the system preference. So let's hit enter. And there's a couple of settings that we can modify. Now you saw that when we searched for thumbs and we searched for wallpaper, there were a variety of different categories that it found. If I don't want it to find a font called wallpaper, for example, I could just switch off fonts. And then it will ignore and just won't return anything that's a font inside that search. I could miss contacts. You'll see later when we get into the more nuances of what Spotlight can do. We've got calculator, we've got bookmarks, we've got images, we've got mail, et cetera, et cetera. So we can turn on and off the things that we don't want. In addition, remember I said earlier that the way Spotlight works is it indexes your drive to do a search for it. Maybe there's a folder inside my hard drive that I don't want it to search. And why wouldn't I want it to search something? Well, maybe I've got a folder that's got hundreds and hundreds of documents that are really just legacy documents and I'm keeping them because I can't throw things away because I'm a hoarder. So what I can do is I can click the plus button and then it opens up my hard drive. So I can say, okay, I don't want it to search, let's say my movies folder. Click choose. And now it won't search and it won't index that folder. And here's a little tip for you. Because it's an index file and it's a computer file, it can get broken. It can get corrupt. The easiest way to reset your Spotlight index, I'm just going to remove this, is to take your hard drive and add it. So if I click on here and I go to the top level of my hard drive, I'm not going to do it now. If I choose my hard drive, it will make my entire hard drive private. It will delete the index. Then if I remove the hard drive from this window, then it'll start to rebuild the index again. And it might take an hour or two to do that, depending on how fast your hard drive is and how much content you've got. Does that make sense? Quick and easy way of doing it. Okay, so another way that Spotlight is used is from the Find window in the Finder, which we can access by going File, Find, or Command F. So I'll use keyboard commands, Command F, and I get what looks like a normal Finder window. Just want to resize it slightly, but in fact, it's slightly different because there's additional criteria that you apply. So if I wanted to do that same search that I did before, if I wanted to find thumbs, I could type thumb, right? And it finds everything that has the word thumb. But now if I want to limit it to folders, I can say kind is a folder. It's actually found a few more than I did before. Why, I don't know, but these are all folders with the word thumb in it. And the other thing that's very cool with this one is we can actually add search criteria. So let's just have a look at some of the search criteria. I'm going to say we can look at file kind, file name, the last time it was opened, search the content, search the created date, search for when it was added, when it was modified. But the other thing about Spotlight is it's extensible. So for example, if I have Adobe InDesign, and Adobe InDesign allows me to create 3-column documents, one of the things that it adds to the Spotlight search is it knows that the documents that you've saved have 3 columns in it, so it adds that as a field to be able to search by. Another way of looking at it is, let's say you're a photographer, and even if you're not a professional photographer, you're in photos, and you want to have a look at, find all the photographs that are in your library where the flash fired. Okay, you can do that. But how do you do that? So if we click on kind, none of those characteristics are there. But if I click on other, all the basic search criteria we've got and any further search criteria that's been added by a third party will appear here. So if I type flash in the search field up there, you can see whether the picture was taken with a flash. Do we want it in the menu? Yes, we do. Click OK. And now if I click over here, you'll see flash is an object, and I'll say flash yes. And clearly I don't have any pictures where the flash fired, or it just hasn't, there was no metadata on that one. Let's look at another one. Let's say, let's have a look at, what criteria have I got for this? Let's have a look, see what we've got. Aperture value, categories for App Store. You know, when you look for apps in the App Store, you can see games, productivity, etc. You can search on that. Whether there's comments, if you use the comment field in your Get Info window, it'll search through the comments over there, whether the information is copyrighted or not. And whatever you check here will appear in your sidebar. So let's have a look at another thing. I want to search for something. So let's say kind. And if we click on kind, this is where we can narrow it down. Show me all applications with the word thumb in it. I know why it didn't work last time. Let's just go back to Flash. I'm an idiot. I was searching for a document called thumb where the flash fired. So let's switch that off. And flash is yes. And these should be pictures where the flash fired. And if I say flash is no, these will be other pictures where the flash didn't fire. There we go. So let's go back to this one. I want to find a kind. If I want to show all the applications on my hard drive, if I want to find all the applications on the hard drive that have the word Adobe in it, right, or related to Adobe, I can do that. But there's only a few here. There's spreadsheet. If I look at spreadsheet, is a spreadsheet there, or has I taken it out? No, there's not even a spreadsheet there. So if I click other and I type numbers, this will find all the numbers document on my hard drive. And you can see over here, we've got Apple Mail, Digicate Learning, streaming artwork, streaming reviews, da, 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 da. So this finds every document in numbers. If you look down at the bottom there, you can see it found 826. That's narrowed it down a little bit, but it hasn't helped me that much. So over here, the little plus button, I just can't find that drive. I mean, Steve Jobs once famously said when they introduced Spotlight, it's easier to find a file on the internet using Google than it is to find a document on your own hard drive. Does that resonate with anybody? I know, I worked on a document yesterday, cannot find it. So I know it's a numbers document, but I opened it in the last 2 days. Here are all the numbers documents I've worked on the last 2 days, 20 items. I can sort by date, I'm sorted. Streaming artwork, that's the one I want. It's just doing a preview of it. So I can search, I can narrow my criteria down. So this gets really interesting because within the last 2 days, these are the documents I did yesterday and the day before. When I go tomorrow, the files that I opened 2 days ago will not appear. So these guys will not appear. These guys will change to the modification date, right? So it's a moving window. So say I wanted to make myself a folder, because I do this all the time. I'm looking for documents that I worked for 2 days ago, numbers documents. Up in the top right-hand corner, I have save. If I click save, I get a save dialog box. It asks me where to save it. By default, it puts it into your library folder. And what it's searching is not the contents of this file, but a search criteria. So it's teeny, teeny, tiny. It's probably less than a kilobyte. So you can have 1 million of these and only take up, 100 megs on your hard drive. But this is the interesting one here, add to sidebar, right? If I click add to sidebar and I click save, you see here on the sidebar, now I can rename this if I wanted to. And I'll say new numbers docs. And anytime I go back there, the contents of this window will be the numbers docs that I've looked at in 2 days ago. So if I go there next week, it'll show me the documents that I looked at the day before, the day of next week, and the day before that. Right? Really cool. If I wanted to make myself a little one where I just wanted to see all the applications I used today, whatever reason, I can do another find. I can go find, kind is application that I opened. Well, let's just say today. And these are the apps that I've used today. So if I want to quickly go back, now what I'm going to do differently with this one is I'm going to save this, but instead of saving it to the default location, I'm going to save these to my desktop. And you'll see what this looks like. And I don't want to put this in the sidebar. I'll click save. And you see on my desktop over here, searching this Mac, if I double click on it, there is a folder containing the applications that I use today. And when I go tomorrow, if I go at 1 minute past midnight, that'll be empty. And as I start using applications, so what haven't I used over here? Let's open up something, contacts. Let's open up contacts quickly. Can you see how contacts was just added to the list? Just sort by name quickly so I can find these. There's contacts. Okay, so this is a dynamic field, dynamic search criteria. And if I want to throw this away, I can throw it away. I'm not throwing the applications away. I'm just searching that search, throwing away that search criteria. So that's super, super cool. You like that? My favorite thing ever. Okay, so let's go back. We've only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to show you a lot of the cleverer stuff that it can do. So I'm going to go to my search bar now. What if I wanted to find something where it was matched the name exactly? Now, do you remember when we were in the find command, we had kind, we had type, and so on? We can use those words to do our criteria. So I want to find a file where the name is wallpaper. And if you're a keyboard junkie like me, then you don't necessarily want to go to the menu and to command and so on. You want to do everything from the keyboard. So if I type name : wallpaper, it finds everything with wallpaper in it. Now, this is interesting because I've got a folder over here and I've got stuff on the right-hand side. So how do I get to the stuff on the right-hand side? Well, I could use my cursor, but if I hit the tab key, I can now go to those folders. So if I go to 16:9, hit return, it opens that folder for me. So now we can narrow our search down. It'll only find documents with folder in the name and it won't search the content. Similarly, if I wanted to find all my numbers documents, or if let's say I type something that has the word stream, and I want to have kind, see if this works, folder. Yep, streaming and quickcast documents, and funky grooves, streaming. We have funky grooves on this computer. So we can do kinds. We could add dates if we wanted to, because as you saw in that search criteria in the file, we could say modified on this date, created on this date. I'm not going to get into it too far because we've got quite a few other things that I think are interesting. So let's go back and we'll search for wallpaper again. And if I go to say this edu wallpaper and I hit Command I, which is the shortcut for info, it opens up the info panel on that document. Now I can see what the kind is, when it was created, etc., etc., etc. showing you, forgive me for, there's so many things. I have to look at my documents, my notes over here. So let's do notes again. And you can see once again, we've got PDF documents, other documents, folders, etc. If I go right to the bottom and click Show in Finder, it opens up a search window with that document criteria in there, and it does a search for me. Okay, and now I can work in the Finder instead of just in that smaller window. Okay, well, let's see what else it can do. Some of you who use an iPad might be familiar with this. Again, it's muscle memory, like I talked about yesterday. We're so used to using computers that if I wanted to find Digicape, for example, on the web, I'd go to my web browser, I'd go to Google, I'd type in, or I'd go to the search bar, type in Digicape, and it would find it for me. But what if you could do it from Spotlight? Let's see if you can. If I go Digicape, it finds a whole bunch of stuff, but now if I hit Command B for browser, it opens up my web browser, puts the word Digicape in the top, and does a search for me. So I've just skipped 3 steps over there. I haven't even had to know where my Safari browser was, whether it was in the dock or whether it was running or not. So that's a really cool one. Command B to open up the browser. Okay, how do I get rid of this when it's open? I hit the escape key and it gets rid of my characteristics. All right, so let's say I wanted to find all the diary entries where I was meeting somebody for lunch. If I type lunch in here, it finds everything, including the dictionary, which we'll come back to in a moment. But I have to scroll quite far down to find my events. And sometimes I might actually have to go to, here we go, events and documents, but that's quite far down. So if I go back to my top and I type kind : events, and then type in lunch, type in lunch, sorry, somebody knocked on the door there. It just shows me events with the word lunch in it. And if I hit that, it'll take me to my calendar and it'll show me that. So you saw the dictionary pop up a little bit earlier. Let's have a look. I'm going to type sunset. And actually, it's preempting me over here. But you can see down over there, there's all sorts of things for sunset, including a dictionary definition. If, on the other hand, I typed define : sunset, it brings up, oh, it doesn't bring up the dictionary definition immediately. Ah, it's because the words define sunset are in my notes as well. So there's the sunset. If I hit Command D for dictionary, it should open up my dictionary. This is where it goes off the rails. Command D for dictionary, no. Command L for lookup, no. Okay, skip that one. Calculations. Everybody knows that it can do simple calculations, right? 200 divided by 2, 200 divided by 2 is 100. But you can do more complex calculations, which can be sometimes difficult to do with a calculator. So if I use brackets, for example, and I went 25 plus 4 close brackets times 20 minus open brackets 3 plus 2 divided by 4. You see it's calculating it as we go along. I can do a Command C to copy, then go to a document, hit paste, and there's my result. So it's, well, one good thing for it to actually just do the calculation. Another thing to actually go, do I have to remember that? 57.875, oh, I've forgotten it. Command C, go to your document, Command V, you're good to go. What else can it do? If I type weather, this is where it starts to do an internet lookup. It knows my location, so it gives me the weather for Cape Town. How many of you have downloaded a weather app so you can look up the weather? Right? Just go to Spotlight and type weather. But what if I want to see the weather in London? London. There's the weather in London. Okay? So I can find the weather anywhere in the world, looks it up on the internet for me, we're good to go. Okay, this is where we're going to zoom through it because you're running out of time. Currency. If I say 50 Rand, it immediately converts it. My default is to British pounds, but I could say I'm going to Japan in yen. It's converted into yen for me. Okay, so it's quite a useful little thing to have. If I'm sitting in my computer and I need to know what it is quickly, do I need to open up a spreadsheet, look up the calculation, do it? No, just do it in Spotlight. Let's look at conversion. 4 meters is 4.37 yards. 4 kilometers, 2.49 miles. 4 hectares, 9.88 acres. 40 kilometers, 2.85 miles. 4 kilometers per hour is 24.85 kilometers per hour. So we can do a lot of conversions. We can convert quantities as well, but here's just some examples, and it's very simple to play with it. How many of you been waiting for somebody to fly in from another part of the world, and you've gone to Flight Tracker and you have to look it up? If you know the flight number, if I type BA096, it looks it up. It tells me where it is where it is at the moment. And I clicked on it and it's opened up Munich because that's where we were. It's opened up the map in Munich. But this gives me where it was going to, where it was from. It's arriving at 1933. And I clicked open in maps over here and it's given me the map location. Let me just click maps. Okay, so flight info. What about sports scores? So let's go soccer scores. There we go. Premier League, Arsenal versus Watford. So again, this is combined with Siri lookup. It's looking for things. I can resize this. You can see there's more results. If I go to the bottom, I can't resize the window that way. But if I click at the bottom and drag down, a bit imprecise here. There we go. I can make it a bigger window. Again, I can move this around by dragging in the search field. But if I just want to set it to the default location again, press and hold on the spotlight bar on the spotlight, a few seconds, and it sets it back to its default size and location. Okay, last thing, and this I think you'll like. Let's say I want to email somebody. Typically, I'd go to my mail, I'd look for their address, or if there's somebody I'd sent a mail to before, it would pop up automatically because it has been in my recents, right, Mike? But if it's somebody who's in my address book, but I've never actually sent something to them, it might not work. So I'm going to type Angelo's name here. And you'll see there's a contact for Angelo Martin. I could have typed Angelo Kind contact. If I click in there, can you see over there? We've got message, mobile, video, mail. If I want to send a mail to Angelo, click mail, and my mail should open. Oh, I really wanted to end on high here. What if I hit message? Okay, I promise you this worked when I was practicing it this morning. Should work, did work earlier, but just to finish off, if I double click on Angelo, it'll open up his contact sheet. And then, for some reason they grayed out. I don't know if my network is a bit iffy, but I should be able to message him, call him. Over here, I could send him an email, and this time it will definitely open up the email with the address over there. So your mileage may vary. Worked perfectly for me this morning, not working for me right now. So that's the end. There's a lot more that it does, but we've way run out of time. We're at the half-an-hour mark, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to you guys for any questions. Let me just unmute everybody. So, ladies and gentlemen, did you know it could do that stuff? Mike, you have a question?
Well, no, yes, I do. And also, no, I had absolutely no idea. I mean, this is definitely something I'm going to have to watch again because I'm super impressed. I mean, I honestly wish I'd known this about a week ago when I lost a very important document. And I went crazy and I had to redo the entire document. So I knew it was there somewhere. Now I know how to find it. But so thank you. It really was outstanding. I just really in awe of that, this one. But you mentioned something interesting about the corrupted hard drive. I mean, I don't have one, hopefully or happily, but you say that you can reconstruct your hard drive by going.
No,
how did that?
No, that wasn't what I was saying. What I was saying was sometimes the Spotlight index file could get corrupted because it's being changed literally every millisecond. You know, every time you work on a document, the modification date is being updated. So the Spotlight index is just another file which is tracking when files are changed, what's happening with them. There's this concept of metadata, which I wrote explain, and I was worried about time. And if you guys don't mind, I'll just explain it quickly for those of you who don't know. But metadata is a term where we talk about information about our information. Now that sounds really, I can't use the word that I want to use, but it sounds obfuscating. And really it's quite simple. If I have a photograph and you see a photograph on a computer screen, there are pixels that are different colors, and that constitutes your picture. But that's not all about your photograph. There's a whole bunch of information that is stored about that. For example, when it was taken, what the shutter speed was, did the flash fire? And all of that information is stored along with the file, and that's called the metadata. If it's a photograph, it might be the pixel size. You know, is it 200 pixels by 100 pixels? Is it 2000 by 1000? And that's the information that the Spotlight index stores and indexes. And it can go iffy. So you start to search for stuff that you expect to find, but it doesn't come up. One way of checking to see if your Spotlight index is corrupted is to add your hard drive into the privacy pane. It deletes your Spotlight index. And then when you take it out again, it builds your index from scratch. And it doesn't take very long. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. I'm not sure I fully understand it, but I'm going to practice.
Okay, Mr. Greenstein.
Hi, good morning. Sadly, I actually just occurred to me that it's already a bit late, but I'll catch up on it. I want to mention that I watched the Siri, you can hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, thanks. I watched Angelo's Siri presentation. It changed my life today. I've been using Siri for most of the day. I've really picked up some very good, useful hints with Spotlight, which I'm going to go into. But yes, it's just quite phenomenal how for so long we can walk around with these devices and just not understand the power. Because, I mean, for instance, something as simple as WhatsApp, I was going to WhatsApp, all of a sudden, I'm just saying, hey Siri, WhatsApp Angelo, and hello, it's done.
Absolutely.
So I just want to thank you. And so obviously I will be able to catch up on this. Is that right?
Yes, we'll download the recording, and depending on how much time I've got today, it'll either go up tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yeah, but and also with Spotlight, from what I can pick up here, comes logically to me, it basically can really answer most questions. Is that right? Because I mean,
well, yes, if it's not on your hard drive, it will point you out to the web. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's very interesting because I mean, there you have, for instance, something with that flight, right? I mean, before I was doing a Google on South African Airways and spending half an hour
trying to find it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's absolutely good. No, it's our pleasure. Anyone else? Sean, you have a question, or are you just saying goodbye?
No, I'd like to say hello and thank you. That's been fantastic. You did reference that there's lots more to learn about how to use Spotlight, and I assume Siri as well. How do we learn more about this? Find out.
You know, I must be honest. A large amount of this is just me trying things out, but I've also, I stand on the shoulders of giants. I go onto the internet. I go to YouTube. I search Spotlight hints and tips. I don't necessarily think that there's a formal what can Spotlight do. There probably is one for developers so that they can build it into their documentation. If I find a formal part on Apple's website where they show you about Spotlight, then I'll build it into the link for the email that I send out. We just need to. I'll send that link along with the email that we send out with the recording link.
So I was going to say, do you have a recipe for cheesecake?
I do. My daughter, my sister has. I have my late mother's recipe, which is cheesecake with pineapple chunks at the bottom, which is my all-time favorite. But my sister has a recipe as well. Do you want me to include that in the mailer?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Right. Any more Any more comments or questions, gents? No?
Gents and lady.
Once again, gents and ladies, sorry. Thank you very, very much for joining us. So we hope you found it valuable. I'm working very, very hard to get the email out, but things keep cropping up that stop me finishing it because I have to book all the Quicket events and then send the email out. But I'm hoping to have the email out with next month's schedule by latest tomorrow afternoon. So over the weekend, you'll be able to pick and choose the things that you want to see. So thanks once again, and we'll see you hopefully next week.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks,
Guys, all
Angela.
the best. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you,
Bye.
Livashin.
Thanks to both of you.
Thank
No,
you.
it's a pleasure.